Hello and welcome back to the Tea and Soju Cdrama podcast, your drama hangout for all things Cdrama. I'm your host, Liliana, so grab your tea, pour your soju, and let's chat dramas. In today's episode, I thought I would take a little step back and just talk a bit about how my C drama tastes have evolved since I started watching all the way back in 2018 because I think there's quite a few differences, and I think it'll just be, fun to have a little look at what's changed. So, but before we get into that, a little housekeeping. If you're enjoying the podcast, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on the platform you're listening on. It really helps Tea and Soju reach more drama fans. For extra content, check out Patreon, where you'll find behind the scenes content, first impressions, Zoom meetups, and more. And if you'd like to chat with me or find a community, come and join me on Discord, Instagram, and other socials. The link is in the episode notes. So that's all the housekeeping and everything out of the way. And let me just tell you how this episode kind of came about. So, I have been thinking more and more with kind of like every year that passes that I look at C dramas quite differently now than when I did in 2018 when I started watching them. And I think also I judge them differently. And that comes with the territory of having a C drama podcast and a review podcast because you tend to look at dramas with, a different eye, anyways. But I think, my watching habits and how I tend to enjoy Chinese dramas has really, really changed over the course of the years. So, I think that will be fun. But also, I think I've been thinking about this because the mid year review is coming up, and I thought, since that's coming up, a little step back to sort of look and reflect a little bit on my C drama journey. And yeah, I think this isn't going to be like a rankings episode or even like a review style episode, more like a reflective look at how my viewing has kind of like just changed over the years. And I thought it would be fun because I reckon I'm not the only one who has their, tastes have evolved and changed. And it's not necessarily that they've gotten better. It's more like where I started versus where I am now kind of conversation, which I think will be fun. And I reckon if you're listening in, I reckon that your viewing might have changed as well. And I reckon that, I think it'd be fun to kind of have that conversation. So that is what today's episode's going to be. I will be talking about like certain episodes, certain dramas and kind of like referencing certain dramas while I go through the episode, but it's not really going to be like a recommendation episode, especially like when I talk about what I used to enjoy in 2018, because like I said, I watched them in 2018. Like, I don't remember a lot of these dramas. And I think if I were to rewatch them now, I don't think I would have enjoyed half of the ones that I did back then, which is an interesting thought to have, right? Just that alone is a very, very interesting thought to have. So, back in 2018, I first got into Chinese dramas because I'm a huge fantasy drama watcher, reader, especially like a reader. I love to read fantasy in all its formats, whether that be urban fantasy, whether that be high fantasy. I just really enjoy getting sucked into a completely different world for a little bit. And so as I was growing up, I would read a lot of that. And then going into, my relationship with my partner, he's a huge anime fan. And so he kind of like, oh, you should try anime because, there's lots of like fantasy animes that I reckon you would enjoy. And like a lot of it is set in these, fantastic worlds. So I reckon you would enjoy it. So I tried it out and I was like, I really like this. And I started watching a lot of it on Netflix. Because at the time, and I still think now, but there was quite a few of the ones that I wanted to watch were on Netflix. So Netflix, Netflix algorithm, like I am the first one to kind of crap on Netflix constantly, but Netflix algorithm really, really has it down to a T when it comes to suggesting things to you. So picture this, it's 2018 and I'm like sitting down at home and it's like, I don't know, 10 o'clock at night. And it's so when I say 2018, I remember exactly when this happened. It's December 2018, the last week of December 2018. And I know this because I have that week off work. My workplace closes. And so my partner was working, all of my family were working, and I was just like home bored. And obviously, like, I had done all the things that I needed to do, and I was like, I'm just going to sit and chill and watch TV. And I opened Netflix, and Netflix kind of opens up with this, oh, you should try this. You like this, you should try this kind of thing. And it was the Chinese drama Ashes of Love. Now, if you know anything about Ashes of Love, it is a pure xianxia drama. It is like high fantasy, and it is so incredibly new to somebody who hasn't watched anything like it on TV. And I was like, oh my God, what is happening? What is this? And it's the kind of drama that you just keep playing and pressing next episode, next episode, next episode. Now, mind you, Ashes of Love is 63 episodes, and I binged that thing in 3 days flat. And I was like, okay, this is really, really interesting. And actually, I ended up not really clicking on anything else for a little while. So, although I say I started watching them in 2018, it was literally the end of 2018. And then I didn't really watch anything else until 2019. And, looking back now, so obviously I was going to enjoy fantasy, but I don't think I really watched that much fantasy back then. I really, really did used to, lean into the modern dramas. And I think it was because, I don't know, maybe because that's what was getting, recommended to me. And I was like, do you know what? I will keep clicking because I liked that one. And when it does this thing where you liked this, then maybe you should try this. So I ended up also trying, the next drama that I tried was Love 020, which is a Chinese drama, which I will say, look, at the time, this is one of those dramas where I will absolutely say at the time, I was going for it. Like, I was so enamored by this type of storytelling. So if you don't know what Love 020 is, about this male lead and female lead who go to college together, and they end up playing a game together, and they're really, really high ranked within this game, but they don't know that they're playing with each other, and they kind of end up finding out, and then obviously getting into a relationship and all of this. Which, to me, this was a type of story that I was like, I have never seen anything like this in the things that I had watched, from the West at that time. I mean, I was watching stuff like, I don't know, WC shows and things like that. So I was, that was just not the thing I was used to. So, mind you, now looking back, would I recommend Love 020 to people? Probably not. Probably not. And I think it's mainly because looking back, I don't know. At the time I was like, this is great because it's all so new to me, right? Because I haven't watched anything like it. It feels fun and fresh. But now, having watched countless dramas, I mean, my drama list says it's like 1100 dramas at this point. I don't trust that, but it does say that. But having watched all of these dramas now, I just don't feel like that's necessarily a good drama anymore. And I know that's probably not, a popular opinion at all, but I just think it's one of those dramas that I I don't think I would recommend it necessarily, mainly because I think the chemistry in it is so naff. That female lead is I don't know, like, not to yuck on anybody's yam. If you liked it, then good for you. But for me, it's just not a great drama at all. So that was, how I kind of got into Chinese dramas in general. And I think looking back, the stuff that I really, really, really did enjoy at that time was, modern dramas and dramas that were really, really focused on romance Love O2O very, very. So that's the kind of thing that I really, really, really liked to watch. And then what I would do was I would kind of find an actor or an actress that I would really, really enjoy, and then I would kind of follow them around. This happened when I discovered Bailu. So I discovered Bailu because I'm pretty sure the first thing that I watched with her was The Legends, which I think is it like a 2019 or a 2020 drama? I think it might be a 2019 drama. But it was The Legends, and she starred in that with Shu Kai. And obviously, because I like that, then I went to watch Military Arsenal Academy, which stars both of them as well. And then I just kind of like went on a Bailu little, dive. And actually, at this point, I'm pretty sure I've watched pretty much everything she's been in, bar two shows. So, that's because back then that was what I was wanting to do. And I was very much a aesthetics and chemistry was what I was looking for. Like I wanted the pretty and the chemistry and all of that. And I'm not saying that there isn't like space for that nowadays. It's just not necessarily what I look for in dramas, but it was back then. Back in, when I first started, it was definitely aesthetics and chemistry, and I didn't do any angst and I did no politics. Like those two were like, no, no. As soon as I'd see that, I was like, no, thank you. Also, happy endings. Happy endings were always a must for me at that point. I was like, why do I want to sign up for a sad ending? So those were things that I like really, really, really looked for. So anything that was like visual, emotional moments, easy engagement. That's what I was being sold. And I think it's probably because those were the things that were coming up for me on Netflix. So I didn't necessarily want to really dive into anything else. I didn't really want to branch out into anything else. And also, I also started watching K dramas as well. So that kind of like plateaued my C drama watching, but it also meant that I was watching a lot of modern K dramas as well. So, you know, dramas, like I said, dramas I loved back then, love O2O. About is Love, which I don't think there's a lot of people that have watched this show. It's not that great, but it was fun. It was fun. Go Go Squid, anybody? Like Go Go Squid, I don't know. Nowadays, I think I would have problems watching Yangzi in like such a childish role almost, because I've seen what she can do and I've seen her be such a prevalent actress in such mature roles that it's really difficult for me to kind of like see her in that context again. But I freaking loved Go Go Squid when I watched it the first time. And I have the most unpopular opinion about this because I actually liked Go Go Squid 2 more than I liked Go Go Squid 1, which is insane because I don't know. Like the storyline was better probably in Go Go Squid 1, but there was just something like about Apple TT and, those two main characters in Go-Go Squid 2 that just worked for me. Maybe because the relationship was a little bit more mature. That might have worked for me a little bit better. But yeah, I that's my very, very hot take about Go-Go Squid in general. So yeah, I like I said, about this time was also when I started watching K-dramas, and it was fun because the kind of thing that I was watching in K dramas was quite different to what I was watching in Chinese dramas. I think for Chinese dramas, I was watching more like fluffy dramas, whereas for K dramas, I was like, I want something that's a little bit more serious, but modern serious, if that makes sense. And I think K dramas do this so beautifully where I don't know, they tell you these stories that are very realistic in a way, but they also just work really well. So yeah, I got into K dramas because it's again Netflix suggested Strong Woman Do Bong Soon, and I was a goner, absolute goner. Is that drama good? Arguably not. The storyline is not the great, but I mean that CP, Park Hyung Sik and Park Bo Young, like I love that main couple so much. They were such a great couple together. They were adorable to watch on screen. So even though the story itself wasn't that great, that aspect of it just kept me watching, completely. So that's really, I don't think I was really thinking, oh, this is really good writing or this is really good directing. That was just not even in the spectrum of what I was watching these dramas for. And I think that marks like this kind of first phase of how I watch dramas. It was like very, vibe based. But over time that's definitely changed a lot. And I think I've become much more of an intentional watcher now. And I think that's kind of like where I'm sort of gearing up towards. I think this is like the, and it must have been about 2020. I think it probably was about 2020. And I tell you why. I think because this is actually a story that I don't think I've really told a lot of listeners. So before I had the podcast, I had a Discord server. And that is well known because that is, if you're a long time listener of Tea and Soju, you absolutely know that, Tea and Soju was born out of this Discord server that I had with a bunch of friends. And that's how that started. But even before that, I actually had an Instagram page and it used to be called, it's actually now the Tea and Soju page because I just rebranded it. But at the time, it used to be called Asian Drama Lils. And why Lils? It's because Lils was my nickname in, in for for the longest time. And so that's what I called it, and I started actually just writing reviews on this. So the very first posts on the Tea and Soju um Instagram page are these reviews that I did. And I think that's kind of like when that switch kind of changed for me and when I started doing something slightly different and in how I viewed dramas. And that's kind of like, how things changed. And actually that's kind of like the start of it all really. So yeah, and then starting obviously Tea and Soju in 2022, just because I think C dramas really weren't that widely discussed. And I'm not saying, like, I'm definitely not saying that people weren't talking about it, but I just don't think there was that many C drama focused podcasts. And people kept telling me, oh, you should do it. You watch a ton of Chinese dramas and you're always like researching and googling things to learn more about them, so you might as well do that. And I think that's really really when my watching shifted from like a casual watching to a really really intentional watching. And I think that's when I started taking note of things like writing. Is the writing good? Is the writing compelling? Is it keeping me interesting? Does it even make sense? Or are we just here for plot of vibes? Is it plot over vibes or is it vibes within the plot? That sort of situation. I think I started really, really paying attention to that pacing, because before I was like, pacing who? Just, I was just gobbling all of these episodes up. And that definitely changed, because I was like, "Oh my god." And you guys know, whenever I review a drama now, I harper on, like, I am the biggest pacing fiend. I always harper on about how dramas need to be better paced, because half the time I'm like, the pacing could have been better. We just needed a bit better pacing, and I keep complaining about it. So yeah, I started way paying way more attention to directing choices, like how something is shot. And I think that really, really, really was something that I really had not paid attention to before at all. Even when I was watching Western shows or movies or whatever, I never thought about, oh my God, look at how that shot adds to the story, or look at how the camera is telling you the story and not the actors. Like, the actors don't have any lines, it's the camera doing all the talking. And that's stuff that I really didn't pick up on before. And I wonder if that's something for you guys as well, because I know like a lot of people that's not the case. So for someone like Jess, if you're listening in, for someone from like Jess from Daybark, she would probably be picking up on all of these just because I feel like she's such a big movie buff and she's just so um knowledgeable about this stuff because she's been watching so critically for so long, that I think she would just be picking up on all of this. But for me it was something completely new to sort of like look at and pick up on, because I honestly didn't before. I was just like, camera who, like, I didn't even know directors or anything. And I think that was one of the biggest changes to me and to like how I watch things and how I perceive things that are being shown to me on screen. So yeah, storytelling. Like, do the storytelling decisions make sense? Because like I said, no drama on this planet can be perfect. And I will say it outright. You guys know that I loved Pursuit of Jade. I absolutely adored Pursuit of Jade. Do I think it's a perfect drama? Absolutely not. Do I care? Also not. But the storytelling suffered because the pacing wasn't there, right? The pacing could have been done better and it would have changed the whole story. I still argue that Pursuit of Jade needed more episodes, but it is what it is. It is what we got. So yeah, so I think I shifted more from less follow actors and more I will try a drama if an actor that I like is in it, but I want to know more about the screenwriters and the directors and the people behind the camera, because I think they're just as important as the people, on screen for us. So that was really, really, really interesting. And I feel like that was one of my biggest changes compared to when I started watching, in 2018. Um, so I feel like at this point, I didn't just consume dramas anymore. I started paying attention to how they were made. And, like I said, I truly feel like that has come from me having the podcast and, having that Instagram review page in the beginning, because I started thinking, I can't just be saying, these people look good on screen and I liked their chemistry. Like, I need to have more to say. So I need to pay more attention to what I'm actually watching. So yeah, so what are my core shifts that I feel like that have changed over the period of time that I've been watching? Um so I think like back then, I was, like I said, very actor driven when I was choosing dramas because like I didn't know about directing or anything. This visuals and aesthetics mattered a lot. Romance, that was my jam. Like romance, absolutely. And I preferred lighter, easier storytelling. So fluff stories. And I don't think there isn't a space for them now. I just have to be in a very, very specific mood about them. And it's really, really interesting because I used to binge watch, fluff pieces back to back, and it would not bother me whatsoever. But nowadays, I'm just like, I don't think I can get through, fluff drama back to back to back. I need something a bit more substantial in the story to keep me hooked. Now, fluff dramas absolutely have their pace. If I'm really, really stressed, or, if I'm just in the mood for something that I need to turn my brain off to, they're perfect. But I just don't go to them as much as I used to. I don't think so. Um, so yeah, it was very much if I like it, I like it. And there was like no deeper analysis or, nothing else really to go into that. It was just I'm watching it because I like it. And I can't tell you why I like it. I just like it type of situation. And I think now it's more about like I care about plot and like the plot and the narrative structure. And I feel like there is this very specific middle ground that I'm really, really happy in where the plot is working, but you still get to see pretty people and you still get to see the aesthetics. And I'm not saying I have to, constantly watch pretty people on screen, but look, I will be shallow here and I will say, is there anything wrong with wanting to watch pretty people on screen? I don't think there is. I honestly don't think there is. And all of these idols are stunning. Like even the ones that people say that aren't good looking, in my opinion, they're still very good looking people. So we can have both. We can have both. So yeah, writing quality is like a really, really good, big deciding factor for me. So nowadays, if I open up a drama and and I see two actors that I really like, for example, I'm like, oh, that's exciting. I get to watch another drama for them. But I immediately also click on like screenwriter and director, and I'm like, okay, do I like these? Do I feel like it's going to be a good project based on these? And I think that, that is a much better way of telling because like with certain actors that I like, for example, Bailu, Zhao Lushi, Wu Lei, all of these actors, they're going to deliver, right? They're going to deliver. They're good actors. So they will deliver. It's just that fine line of good actors, in my opinion, good actors cannot make a bad script good. I just don't think that it works that way. So, having them be in a good show, it all starts at the screenwriting desk, right? So, whatever comes from that, that's and then the director comes in and adds way more to it. And yeah, I think I just appreciate layered storytelling and like complexity way more than I used to. And it's that realization to me that craft matters. And that may seem to be the simplest thing for lots of people listening. I'm sure you've always been aware that, craft matters. To me that wasn't the case, right? And I think this also comes with the fact that it's been how long, 7 years since I've been watching. I've also matured a lot in 7 years. I've entered my 30s, so I feel like that also makes you kind of change what you want to watch because you sort of grow up more. It's a whole new phase in your life. So yeah. So I've always, you've heard me say it before, but I feel like I really, really appreciate like the full trifecta: writing, directing, and acting. I feel those three need to be in really good balance, and all of them need to be on point for us to have a really good quality drama. And yes, like if you have a good screenwriting, if you have a good, if you have good writing and good acting, you could probably ignore bad directing, depending on how bad it is. But like I said, I don't think if the writing is bad, I feel like that's one of the worst ones. And like a good director and a good screenwriter could probably save a bad actor, if that makes sense. But I just don't think it could probably work the other way around. Yeah. So, if the writing isn't there, I just notice it now. And I'm not saying, like, if the writing isn't there for me, because it might be that I think, oh, this is just not that great of a plot or not that great of storytelling, or screenwriting. And then somebody comes in and they're like, what do you mean? Like, this is great. I'm loving this. So I think it really does depend from person to person. This is just like I said, a very reflective and introspective episode for me on what I think like works and doesn't work for me anymore. So yeah, so what do I actually gravitate towards now? Like I said, I really, really, really do find myself leaning way more towards historical dramas. And you wouldn't think that because if you looked at my drama list, um, you would think, oh my God, she's a modern drama girly, because that is the bulk of what I've watched is, modern day dramas. But you also, if you organize my MDL by ranking, you'd realize that my highest rated dramas, probably like 90% of them are um historical dramas. So I feel like that is just what I lean towards. It is just what engages me much more. And I feel like there's so, not saying you can't do that much with modern dramas, but there's so much you can do with historicals. So if I do watch modern dramas, I tend to actually lean more into crime dramas nowadays. And I've been watching way more of them this year than ever before, which is surprising me. And then also, if I want romance, I kind of just need a bit of substance to it. And like I said, I'm very much a mood watcher. Although for historicals, I feel like I'm always in the mood for a historical. But when it comes to a modern, or when it comes to a fluff kind of drama, then I need to really be in the mood for it, or it needs to be something that's comforting. So for example, currently I'm watching Dazzling, and I'm loving it, and it's probably because it gives me very much meet yourself kind of vibes. Not that it's the same plot, it's definitely not the same plot, but it gives me those vibes, which is a lot of fun to watch. So yeah, I still enjoy fluff dramas, but like I said, I really do need to be, in the mood for it. And just because we were touching on Meet Yourself, I feel like that's something new as well. Because I don't think before, even when I was just watching Western dramas, I don't think I really watched these, what I would call like comfort dramas. And I'm talking about stuff like Meet Yourself and Go Ahead, where it is much slower storytelling and it's emotional storytelling. And I really, really appreciate those now. So I really wasn't into this, because let's face it, I love Meet Yourself. I truly, truly love Meet Yourself. But it is 40 episodes, and there's not a lot happening in those 40 episodes, right? So I would think, like, back then, I would just be like, absolutely not. Like, I'm going to be bored out of my mind. I need stuff to be happening, or, it needs to be shorter, or whatever it may be. But nowadays, I'm just like, I love this. It's like going in and finding like a little piece, a little pocket of peace, right? While you're watching, you're just checking in on neighbors. Those are the kind of shows that I find really, really comforting. So yeah, I did not used to watch these dramas at all. Like even when I was just watching Western shows, really, really wasn't my thing watching these, very slow paced slice of life kind of dramas. And I love them. I truly do. And so I find a lot of comfort watching them. So yeah. Now one of the biggest things that I've realized that has changed is not just what I watch, but it's how I watch it. So I used to be the biggest binge watcher, and if you're a long time listener, you know that's not how I watch things nowadays. So I would be very much, I would watch one drama, I would finish it, and then I'd move on to the next one. And I would not have like two dramas on the go. No, 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 no. I would do one drama, done, move on to the next one drama, and I would binge these so quickly, right? And first of all, I just cannot binge them as quick as I used to, just because life happens and you get busier and things happen. But I'm very much an on air girly now. Like I love watching things on air, and I think it's because I discovered that whole community that comes with watching a show on it. Because yes, you can come back to it later, but you don't have like the sort of chatter going on. And yes, people will still be happy to, chat to you about it, especially if they love the show. They will definitely want to chat about it. But I love the chatter of everybody being in the exact same boat and being like, we have no clue what's going to happen, right? So I love that kind of chatter, and I love seeing that happen live, if that makes sense. So I am very much, an on air type of person, to the point now where it takes me forever to finish it. Like if a show has already completed, it takes me forever to finish it. And I'm like, I don't understand this. Why can't I just binge watch something? So if I do binge a show, it's good because it doesn't happen, that much nowadays. So, like I said, I don't think these tastes have changed overnight. They've definitely taken their time. And I think it's not that I think they've just sharpened over time and, gradually kind of my focus has shifted in the types of dramas that I like to watch and, even how I watch them. And yeah, I just started paying attention to different things. Um, so yeah. So even nowadays, I don't, like I said, I don't watch K dramas that often anymore. Although I feel like I'm saying that right, but this year alone, I've already watched double digits K dramas. I'm gonna actually bring it up. So I have a list on my phone where I have like all of my what's it called? All of my completed dramas for the year, and it's like color coded and everything. So I know what's happening. But I have already watched 10, actually 11 K dramas because I haven't updated this, so I haven't added filing for love. So 11 K dramas and only 13 C dramas. So I feel like that is not normal. Normally, I am more like C dramas and then like K dramas I don't watch as much, but I feel that that will probably change by the end of the year. Um but I feel like I'm watching a lot more K dramas this year, which is fun. Like it's fun to have a lot more K dramas to watch. But with the podcast, I will obviously always prioritize C dramas, and I feel like because I like more historicals and stuff, I tend to lean towards C dramas anyways. But also C dramas just release very quickly. And oh, that was a big shock for me because I hadn't watched a K drama in a little while. And then I went and watched an on air K drama, and I was like, what do you mean I only get 2 episodes a week? I was like, I am not used to this anymore. I'm used to like, and J dramas are even Thai and J dramas, like you get 1 episode a week, and I'm watching a couple of those now. And I'm like, what do you mean 1 episode a week? It takes forever to finish one of these. So that was just a bit of a whiplash to get back into the way of watching and only having those episodes a week. So yeah, like I used to watch a lot more K-dramas than I do nowadays. I think I used to watch way more K-dramas than I did C-dramas, and for a long time. And it's not that I'm not gonna start the argument of K-dramas and C-dramas are better and blah 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 blah. Just because I don't think I feel like that's a redundant argument. They will work for who they need to work. I always say I go to different countries for different things. If I want a historical, I'm gonna go to China. If I want like a more poignant kind of drama, modern drama, I'm gonna go to K Drama Land. Although, since Netflix, I mean, do we even want to touch on that argument? Because I feel like that was the point where K dramas and I started to drift away from each other. Not that I don't like, I'll slip back into K drama land every now and again. I just don't think it's as often, as it used to be. And I think I do have a preference for longer dramas, and obviously I just get that in C drama land. So yeah, I think it's more like, you know, they just don't align with what I necessarily want to watch. Although like I said, I've been watching quite a few this year and I've been enjoying them. So it's not like I don't watch them fully, it's just that I don't watch as much of them anymore. And I honestly do think that's mainly because I've gone into historical land and, historical and political dramas. I am shocked at myself because honestly, if 2019 me could see 2026 me, they'd be like, "Who are you?" Because like I said, I would hate to watch politics back then. It just wasn't for me. I used to avoid them like the plague, right? And I just found them so overwhelming and interesting. And then this gradual shift happened. And I think it's because I started watching historicals that were they had politics in them, but they were very beginner friendly type of politics. So they were very easy to watch. And once I started having that shift and paying more attention to the story, I was like, oh, politics can actually add to a story. It can add tension and it can add all of these plot points that work really, really well. So I think that's when I started to really, really enjoy watching politics in a drama. And I think it'll probably be with dramas like Nirvana and Fire. I was hooked and I was like, I am so shocked that I'm even enjoying a drama like Nirvana and Fire because Nirvana and Fire does not have romance. It's straight up politics constantly all the way through. And I was like, how is it that I'm loving this so much and I'm so engaged in it. And also Joy of Life. I finally watched Joy of Life, and oh my god, these two were probably like my biggest turning point. Joy of Life, it's so much fun and it does such a great balance between ridiculously good politics and then like having fun aspects to the drama, so you're constantly engaged and there's like parts to break up those politics. So I loved these and I think it works for me now because I like strategy and storytelling depth and I like seeing like all the character motivations, and it's like long form payoff, right? You're not going to get that instant gratification because you need to let the story go where it needs to go. So if they're well done, that's always the biggest thing. If they're well done, then I'm all up for like a good politics in a drama. It also depends what kind of politics. If we're talking about like court politics, like I love court politics, harem politics, oh, those are great, great to watch. Unfortunately, we don't get to see them as often nowadays, but harem politics, love those. I'm not as big a fan of watching like sect politics within wuxia, and I think that's probably why I don't gravitate so much towards wuxia. It's probably because I'm not as big of a fan of like, all of these what's it called? All of these like sect politics, because it's all basically like one sect just wants to be more powerful than the next, and I always feel like it ends up being, I don't know, over overused and overtold kind of situation. So yeah, I feel like that's where I've landed. And this is absolutely the biggest change that has happened for me, I think, over, my years of watching, is that I've gone from someone who's just a straight up, I just want to watch modern dramas and fantasy, because I would watch like Xianxia at the time, so like fantasy and modern dramas. And now I'm like, just give me like the historical revenge dramas, just give me like the politics dramas, and I'm up for it. Like that's where my sweet spot is nowadays. So give me those and I'm more than happy to kind of like watch those. So yeah, I think that's honestly the biggest change in, you know, I think I don't think my taste has changed. I just think I've learned how to see dramas differently. And I think I have, you know, evolved in what I like to watch. And I'm not saying modern dramas aren't good, and I'm not saying, I have better taste now than I did then. That's not the case. I just feel like I look for different things. So I look, for that plot driven storytelling, that strong writing, that directing, those historical dramas. And I feel like it's evolution rather than replacement of taste, because I will still very much enjoy a modern day drama, but I will definitely gravitate way more towards a historical nowadays. Which again, I'm still incredibly shocked that that's the case. Um, but yeah, I am very, very happy with you know, what I like to watch nowadays and how I like to watch things and, even just how things are changed. So, I'd love to know, what do you think has evolved in your watching tastes? Like over the amount of time that you've been watching, even if it's just like a year, even if it's a little bit more, more time, less time, let me know if you've noticed your kind of a change in your watching pattern and, how you find things. So let me know, come chat to me on all the, socials, Discord, Instagram. Go and find me in all of those. And please let me know because I would be so curious to hear your thoughts and your reflections because I think it's fun to kind of like look back and see where you've started and where you are now and like how things have changed over time. And that's why I wanted to do this episode. It's an episode that I haven't really done before, so I don't know how it's going to land for you guys. So let me know if you've enjoyed this type of episode because like I said, I'm like shooting in the dark here because I've never really done something like this and it's like it's very much a more reflective introspective episode than anything I've done before, so please let me know what your thoughts. And that's it for today's episode of Tea and Soju. Thanks for hanging out with me, guys, as always. I'll see you in the next one, and happy watching.